It may just be me, but it seems like it is perpetually dark outside these days, yesterday notwithstanding. It's like we've been living in the northern reaches of Scandinavia. I look outside my window at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun has already disappeared. December 21st marked the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. I whined that day. A friend of mine said, "Look on the bright side." No pun intended. The days are now getting longer. While I know it is true that days are lengthening, it's just not happening fast enough for me. Perhaps I'm among the company of those who have some form of seasonal affective disorder. Maybe I simply need that annual trip to warmer climes to come sooner this year. Either way, I cannot help but call out, like Tevye, "A little more light, please, if you will." The season of Epiphany, the celebration of God's light manifest to the nations, unfolds in the midst of dark and dreary days. Mother Nature seems to be depriving us of light, but even on dreary days, God's light shines through. This is the insistent message we preach and celebrate in this time of Epiphany. The gentle light that came at Christmas now fills the room and seeks to fill the world. Herod has finally caught up with John the Baptist and has arrested him. While this must weigh heavily on Jesus, it has not stopped him in the least from commencing with his ministry of preaching and teaching and healing. He has left the rocky waters of the Jordan and has squarely set his heart on the windy shores of the Galilee, the region of Zebulun and Naphtali. With our 21st century ears, we hear that Jesus is heading to Galilee, and it makes sense to us. This region holds special meaning for followers of Jesus because it is deeply biblical and important. God's miracles have unfolded here. However, in the first Christian era, Galilee was known to be a backwater region. Now, a good management consultant might have redirected Jesus to launch his public ministry in a some more worthy place, such as Rome. Why not Rome, the eternal city, or exotic Babylon, or Cairo, in Athens among philosophers and patricians, or why not nearby Jerusalem? It's a multicultural, bustling city at a major crossroads for international commerce and trade. No, Jesus has set his heart on Galilee because this is the land of the people who have sat in deep darkness. And he has come to let them know in no uncertain terms that they have not been forgotten. Jesus has begun his ministry in a small, forgotten corner of the empire where the marginalized, the rumpled, and struggling folk live. In Harry Potter speak, Galilee is a place filled with muggles and half-bloods. Pure Jews would have looked down their noses at the Galilee because there was much intermarriage and many Gentiles and foreigners lived here. But these are Jesus's kind of people. The quirky, the broken, those who are running hard just to stay in place. The Anawim in Hebrew, meaning the downtrodden and those most longing and hungering for God's mercy. In a small village called Capharnaum, Jesus meets up with 4 fishermen casting their nets into the sea. Simon, Peter, and Andrew, and then later James and John, the Zebedee brothers. "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people," he says. And immediately they drop their nets and follow him. We can't be sure if they ever picked up those nets again or what the conversation was at the dinner table with Mrs. Zebedee last night when she learned what her husband had done. We have no idea, but to be sure, that invitation to follow resonated deeply in them. Jesus' call elicited a response from the heart. In this moment, they are seen and valued and invited into a way of life that lifts their sails and sets them on a new course. From all eternity, God has stepped out on space, taken on human flesh, and is here inviting 4 smelly fishermen to be his friends and to know the freedom of a very different kind of kingdom. Most rabbis worth their salt would not have done it this way. Rabbis in Jesus' day would be considered too important to go recruiting students. Jesus has done it all wrong and in the wrong order. The student seeks the teacher. Moreover, it's the rabbi's job to be very picky and selective, finding the creme de la creme. But not Jesus. He seems to call the first 4 people he stumbles upon. Then again, this is Jesus, and he comes with an entirely different vibe. He inhabits an upside-down view of the world. He may step into a boat or onto the hillside to teach or preach, but he never steps out of the fray. Jesus lives in the fray, where real life unfolds, hanging out in pubs, at village wells, along roadsides, and yes, the seashore. This is the incredible thing about Jesus. He is so crazy about us that he comes looking for us. He comes looking for us when we are in deep darkness, especially when we are in deep darkness. He comes seeking us where we are, not where we thought we should have been, or where others think we should be. But he meets us right where we are and loves us. Jesus comes to Galilee and invites us to be his friends and to let us know in no uncertain terms that God has not forgotten us and we are not alone. A year ago, the Roman Catholic leader Pope Francis visited Washington, D.C. You may remember that. The streets were lined with thousands of spectators, as they do when a dignitary comes. A 5-year-old girl by the name of Sophia Cruz crawled under the barriers, seeking a private audience with the pontiff. You may have read about that. The security detail, of course, sought to block her at all costs, but Francis stopped the caravan and called her forward. The little girl handed him a letter pleading for his help. "Speak to the powers in my country," she said, "especially the president and the Congress. My heart is sad. Every day I am scared that one day they will take my parents from me. All immigrants, just like my Dada, feed this country. They deserve to live with dignity and respect." Her letter ended, "Pray for me. Love, Sophia Cruz." Yesterday, an estimated, I don't know how many people, marched worldwide to be in solidarity with the vulnerable among us and to uphold the dignity, equality, and rights of humankind. In Washington alone, I'm told that over 1 million people alone gathered. Amongst those who gave testimony was little Sophia Cruz, now age 6. With a heart full of courage and joy, she stood up there and in English and in Espanol spoke these words. "Hi, my name is Sophia Cruz. We are here together making a chain of love to protect our families. Let us fight with love and courage so that our families will not be destroyed. I also want to tell the children not to be afraid. We are not alone. There are still many people who have their hearts filled with love and tenderness to snuggle in this path of life. Let us keep together. God is with us. I was deeply touched by her testimony and her witness. She is one of the Anoim, to be sure, a marginalized little girl and a daughter of immigrants. Her concern for her family is real. What would it look like for 6-year-old Sophia to have her mother or her father taken away from her? Despite these real fears, she stood up in front of crowds of people and put it all out there. Hers was a message of hope for a people who sit in deep darkness. Her voice made manifest the light of Christ to a hurting world. Perhaps that's what it looks like to set down your nets and follow Jesus. Maybe this is what following Jesus in Galilee does. It gets us believing again in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of real life, that we are uplifted, held, valued, loved, and dwelling fully in another kingdom, God's kingdom, that seeks only our good and the good of this whole world. We live in Galilee, but we also live in this kingdom where God's light shines through the cracks in the pavement. Wherever Galilee may be for us in this season of our lives, there may we know the insistent friendship of Jesus, and may the simple but powerful words of a little girl inspire us to share this friendship with a struggling world. Tell the children not to be afraid, because we are not alone. God is with us. Amen.